Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gamey Daddy channel. Today we're going to have a short conversation. I'll try to be short with it about the title update 12.1 so far. So there has been a lot. There are mixed feelings about all of the different patches and even the pre-patch news that was, announced about Ubisoft massive working on a Star Wars game, and then this patch dropped and then no state of the game. But I think we could just focus on some of the things that are already available here, and I'll speak a little bit from experience and from the history of the Division 1, what we can expect in a sense. And I don't want to really make any major predictions here. I have made most of my predictions anyways. Many of them I've made based on my analysis. And I think that, there is plausibility that some of the things I've said may be or may not be. But first of all, I wanted to go ahead and just show you guys the game on PC running at 60 FPS and also on the PlayStation 5 running at 60 FPS as well. Right now it's morning here on the PlayStation 5. I don't know if it's already morning outside on the, oh look, I think the timing is the same regardless of your region. And one of the really interesting things you're going to see with both games as they're running is the PC version on my own display. I'm using 1080 for both of them. There seems to be a warm feeling to it. I think graphic fidelity is still decent, still good. But here on the PlayStation 5, I think in order for them to be able to, stretch out all of the performance, they've gone ahead to just remove a lot of the fog that really gives it quite a different atmosphere. So this is something that, if you have both of them, you're going to notice, but it's not going to take away from your enjoyment of the game at all. Even on PC here, I was being silly and I went and set my frame rates. Oh, that's a Batman thing. I clicked the wrong button. I set my frame rates to like 100 FPS and I was messing around and it was still really good. But to be honest, I'm excited that you can play at that fidelity on both consoles. I said both consoles, on both platforms, sorry to say. And again, one of the really interesting things too is there has not been a shortage of players actually doing activities and doing all kinds of different fun stuff in the game. In fact, if you matchmake for bounties, if you matchmake for legendary missions, both on the PlayStation 5 and even the PC, you're going to have people to run with you. It's really, really cool. I literally just got myself my third bighorn and nobody wanted it in a group. That was like a big veteran thing. This is it right here. Basically max rolled. It just dropped from the boss, not one of the, but the boss at the end. And so that was pretty cool to just log in on PC after not logging in for, I think I haven't logged in and played consistently on PC for a while now. I've just been taking a hiatus, just basically prepping for the PS5 and doing some other stuff based on other projects I'm working on, which I'll be talking to you guys about later. And it's been fun. The one thing though I will say on the console side is, a lot of the veterans, and you can't really blame them, they have a very short patience fuse. When somebody has a low level, like a shade level 10, when you matchmake for a legendary, they have a shade level of 1,000, 2,000, sometimes they just dip out. But I can understand, that kind of sentiment, because some new players don't necessarily understand the nuances of what it means to play a legendary mission. So they end up running into fire, and then now we have to come back and pick them up. And so I've been fortunate to also just ask in groups, hey guys, if you don't want your gear, can I have it? And people have been nice enough to just basically furnish me with some of the beautiful looking gear. I mean, it's not, it's nothing crazy, but I've been able to get some really good gear I can work with, and these were given to me as well by people here on the PlayStation community. So I'll be running around kind of like, just playing and everything. My gamer tag is one that many people may not recognize. So it's not Gamey Daddy on PlayStation 5, which is fine, because honestly, I really just want to play the game many times, and I love matchmaking. I enjoy matchmaking. It's almost exclusively what I always use or run with, from time to time. And so that's been a very interesting experience. And then moving on to pretty much what I believe I'm seeing here in the community is, there are a lot of different concerns. Look, there's an agent asking for help. This is what PlayStation is like, man. It's crazy. Just a lot of the feeling of the community, basically, back to what we're trying to say. And some people have said that, this patch has not been necessarily impressive or whatever it is. But I think another thing, too, is just kind of the understanding of what the year 2, entirety of the year 2 content was. And if you really want to understand what was proposed, you have to go back and watch that year 2, the after event thing or whatever it is, the after hours thing that they did, really talked extensively about what's going to be coming for the second year, and they have delivered at every point in the cycle of the game. They brought out the Warlords of New York DLC, and then they've brought out seasons over and over again. So that's exactly what we should be judging this year to by what they promised, what they put on the table for the price point, and what they've delivered. So far, we've had the opportunity to get a lot of exotics, and people are still coming back into the game to get these things as well. And I'm sure once the Failal Manhunt reaches, that's going to pretty much open the door for more conversations as to the future of what this game is going to look like. And to that, I want to speak from a place of history and from just a little bit more experience in the Division community. And for those of you who've been here since the start, I started my channel in October of 2016. The game was not in I don't remember Division actually being in a great place. And honestly, I remember too many rocks on the road with that title. I don't remember it as many people say they remember it. A lot of the fond memories that people have, to me, I just saw a lot of pain that the game had to go through. And I remember just hanging on, and we had no news for the longest time. In fact, they had a state of the game where they came out and said, we're no longer going to support the Division game. And the community flipped. People went mad. They lost their minds. And, they came back and said, okay, we're going to give you guys this new extended area in New York to work on and just go play. Piers, enemy spawns, all enemy types, and people were just enjoying it and doing the activities there. And then with all that silence in place, they started sending out these surveys. People were filling out surveys. They were asking them all these questions. And these surveys, little did we know that Massive was gathering all this data. And eventually they announced in March of 2018 that there was going to be a Division game in the works. I remember I was working that day, and I think I just pulled out my phone from my pocket to check on something because I was a manager then in that job that I was doing. So yeah, I could be on my phone. Yeah, manager privileges. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And so I looked and I saw on Twitter, I was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a Division 2 game. And that really did take away a lot of the uncertainty. But you have to understand that there was a huge gaping silence between that time. So when I hear people refer to, Star Wars and all of that stuff, even some of my content creator buddies, are asking, what is Massive even doing? There's no state of the game. No one's even talking to us. It was almost exactly the same way. Maybe there was state of the games, but I wasn't paying attention to anything that wasn't going to be announcing, the future of the game at that point. I was just like, if they don't want to bring out something, then that's their prerogative. They don't want to bring out anything. And so I think that that's probably what we're going to see, where that long silence builds tension. They get their, marketing right. They get their story straight. This is a multi-million-dollar franchise. You're not just going to come out here and just make a tweet about something like this without heavy consideration. I mean, many people have, in my opinion anyways, glossed over the fact that that tweet about the Star Wars game was more of a marketing tweet than anything else. It wasn't necessarily a content-based tweet. If you're going to be working on a Lucas Star franchise, right now that, Lucasfilms is really, really big and hot on the take. And, with The Mandalorian being so successful, I believe that Ubisoft wanted to ride that train, and that's when they made that announcement. I think that's all that was for. The project is so young, they're still hiring writers for it. In fact, heck, they're still hiring a senior writer for Avatar. Avatar is supposedly going to be coming out with the movie sometime, and they still have a lot of work to still do, and they have a team that they're hiring and teams that are dedicated for that project. If the Star Wars project is still building its own team from the ground up, then you can expect that many other, developers within the studio are going to be working on a Division game, because Massive is a multi-game studio. If, say for instance, this was Rocksteady, some of you are Batman fans, you know what I'm talking about. Rocksteady is a one-game studio. They made the Arkham games, 3 of the 4 Arkham games, they made them. And their job, and according to them, their philosophy is we only make one game at a time. When we're done with that game, we move on to something else. Massive Ubisoft and many Ubisoft studios, and even most other studios around the world, are not like that. They're working on a project, and while they're working on it, they're doing a prototype for another project. Same with Respawn. Respawn was, working on Titanfall, and at the same time they were working on a project which later eventually matured to be a Star Wars project, because they just came to them and said, hey, do you guys want to work on a Star Wars game? But they already had a core team that was already working on a prototype for a concept. All they did was provide them with the option to say, hey, you want to make a Star Wars game? And they were like, heck yeah. So whatever the project it was that they were working on, it's supposed to be a melee-based fighting adventure game. They just basically took all those concepts and then said, okay, this is a Star Wars game. Let's start building upon it. So I think that's what we're going to be seeing right now, is whoever is working on this game is in the concept phase. They're prototyping, they're building. Maybe they already did the prototyping and did some kind of a portfolio to take to Lucasfilms to kind of audition, in quote, for the role. I think that's probably how it worked. You take your work to these guys, and, you're talking about James Cameron and George Lucas. I mean, I don't know who else, you want to call in the movie industry that's going to be willing to allow for you to make a game based on their own movies. But if they were happy with your work, then you must have really done a good job. So I think all the while that Yannick was working with the community, dealing with the rest of the game, Julian Garrity was probably preparing this prototype with a small core team, and they took that, they went and, I don't know, maybe this is just me hypothesizing. I don't know, and this is not official, guys. Just me, just kind of, shooting in the wind, see maybe I can, figure out what is going on. But I believe that's kind of how they've done it. And so now they're hiring for it, and it's not necessarily a project that has even, in a sense, budded. I think the seed's just been planted in the minds of the community. So you still have to account for hundreds more developers that are within the studio. What are they working on? What have they been doing since they delivered Warlords of New York? What were they doing after the release of The Division 2, before Warlords of New York? You can't tell me it took 1 year to make Warlords of New York. Not for a team like this that's made, one of the biggest, most realistic games out there. And so I think with the uncertainty, it just has to be read from a place of experience. Now, I could be wrong. If the franchise ends, that's fine. For me anyways, I'm okay with that. But at the same time, I'm never afraid to be wrong. I could be wrong. I will make a thumbnail for you guys to even tell you which one should I use if they don't announce the Division 3. I'll do it. You guys get to vote on the I'll Eat Crow thumbnail at the end of the day. So thank you for letting me just rant a little bit about all of this. It's really interesting, and I believe that as a community, the questions are valid, but I think the concerns also need to be weighed from, a place of just a little bit of history, just a little bit of the past, and how this franchise has basically carried itself, from when its onset, from when it was onset all the way through now. I think this will provide a little bit more clarity to all of this. But that's it for me. Thank you very much for your time and audience. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you very much for watching the video. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in another one. Peace.